Story time about how my creepy uncle flirts with me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. I finally told my dad and he told my uncle to stop making comments. My uncle just laughed and told my dad that he was overreacting. And that all he said to me was that I was a pretty girl. What a liar. In part 1 and 2, I told you guys that it was getting worse, but here's where it actually gets even worse. Like I said, I have a really big family, so my cousins are growing up too. One of them just turned 13 and my uncle cannot stop staring at her. She's maturing a lot quicker than most 13-year-olds. He's already staring at her. So here's what I did. At the next family event, I sat right next to him. Every time he would stare at one of my cousins or try to make a comment at me, I called him out for it in front of everybody. I even recorded the things that he said. The fact that I even have to do this at a family event makes me sick. Instead of enjoying my time with my family, I have to sit next to my creepy uncle policing him. Anyway, it's totally worth it though. I'm making sure that my cousins don't feel uncomfortable. After I had enough recordings of him saying nasty things, at the next family event, I showed it to my grandma. I basically played it for the entire family. My grandma told him that he couldn't come to any more events if he was going to behave that way. And of course, he apologized to everyone right away. But not to me, he apologized to my dad. After his half-ass apology, he was let back into family events. I don't think that's enough punishment. Give me some ideas because I think I deserve justice. Creepy uncle. So we ended up doing it for the first time that night. The next morning when I woke up, the first thing he said to me was, "Do you ever exercise?" I was shocked. Part 2 is up. Story time about how my boyfriend shames me for having cellulite. Disclaimers is not my story time, I sent me on Instagram. That's when he said point blank, super serious, "Do you ever exercise?" I just stared at him. I had literally just woken up in his bed after the first time we ever did it. Then I thought he must be joking. So I started to laugh a little, and then he says, "No, seriously, do you ever exercise?" I said, "Sometimes." Then he told me, "You should really try to work out at least 5 times a week." I went home and finally texted him saying that I wasn't comfortable with the way he spoke to me. That's when he said that what he said to me was completely normal and that I shouldn't be offended. This was all in text, by the way. That's when he sends me another text message saying, you wouldn't have as much cellulite as you do if you didn't eat so much fast food. And if you exercise 5 times a week like I told you. I didn't reply to him for the rest of the day. Later that day, he shows up to my apartment and says, I should feel comfortable enough to tell you what I think about you. He somehow ended up making me feel bad and I ended up apologizing. Obviously, after that, I became really self-conscious about my cellulite and my entire body. So anytime we were together, I would always stay under the covers. By the way, my boyfriend doesn't have a great body. He's super soft and pudgy. Last week, he told me that he had abs though. Part 3 is story time about how my boyfriend shames me for having cellulite. Disclaimer, it's not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. One day he pulls up his shirt and says, "Look, I have abs." Which no, he doesn't. He's super soft and has a thick layer of fat on it. I smirked and he said, "What?" And I said, "You don't have abs." Then he says, "Yes, I do. I'm in better shape than you." By the way, he said this in front of his friends. So I was super embarrassed and stayed quiet the entire day. He finally went to drop me off and I was so happy to be home. But he decided to come upstairs with me. Got straight into my PJs. And when I came out of my bedroom, he says, "Wow, your cellulite's getting worse by the day." That's when I finally broke. I turned around and started yelling at him. I told him he had no right to talk about my body the way that he did, and that all he does is objectify me. He started laughing and said, "Wow, those are big words." And that when we met, he thought that I was in better shape. But my clothes obviously tricked him. I'm 5'4" and I weigh 130 pounds. I am by no means fat, but the way that he was bullying me was making me think that I was. That's when I told him that he was the fat one, and that he had a big, huge beer belly. I also told him that his face was super round, but that didn't bother me. Oh yeah, and that his hairy back was gross. Then he said, "Wow, I can't believe you're attacking my physical appearance." Then he stormed out of my apartment. And as soon as he left, I felt happy. We haven't spoken in 4 days. I'm afraid that if he asks me to get back with him, I will. But I should just break up with him, right? What should I do? My best friend only keeps me around because I'm fat. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, was sending me on Instagram. I've always been the chunky, pudgy, overweight, chubby girl in the group. Now, our friend group consisted of 4 girls in high school. Once we graduated college, 3 of us stuck together while the other one was kind of out. Then the other 2 girls in the group got boyfriends, and I was on my own. Eventually, they stopped reaching out to me and it was like I didn't even exist. Let me be very clear about something. I have accepted that I'm the chunky girl of the group. I never get jealous. I do not envy them. They are all very attractive and skinny, but I just don't care about that. I'm happy that they love their bodies, but I feel okay in mine. But of course, I knew that I needed to get healthier, so I signed up to the gym. Around this time, one of my girlfriends broke up with her boyfriend and she started coming around again. And I accepted her friendship again, but I told her that it hurt my feelings that she completely ignored me once she got a boyfriend. She promised that she would never do it again, and we started going to the gym together. She's the one that always gets hits on. Guys compliment her. It's like I don't even exist. In fact, they ask me for her number when she doesn't want to give it to them. You see where this is going? Decided to get dressed up all cute and we went to a bar together. Babe, part 2 is up. You gotta go watch. My best friend only keeps me around because I'm fat and I make her look good. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. That's when she invited me to go to our favorite bar. As usual, she always invites me to go to her place to get ready. Nope, she can never come to mine. So I lugged all my clothes and makeup all the way to her place. And as we're getting ready, she starts suggesting that I change my outfit. I felt really cute in my outfit. It was a sleek black blazer with the matching bottoms, tight black tank top, and gold jewelry. But as soon as she saw my outfit, she said I looked way too formal. And then she spent the next 30 minutes trying to convince me to change and put on one of her tight-ass dresses. dresses. I asked her if she was in her right mind, considering her dress wouldn't even fit my right thigh. Then she said that I needed to calm down and that we should just go get drinks. And then she ended up copying my outfit. She wore a gray blazer with skinny jeans. When we get to the bar, I started having fun right away. I saw one of my besties from work. Her and I get along so well. This is when I noticed my bestie was really quiet. But as usual, she's only waiting for a guy to come hit on her. Finally, some random dude comes up to her and asks her if she wants a drink. She's like, "Oh my god, thank you so much." Then she looks at me and says, "It's always good to have you around, you know." Part 3 is up. My bestie only keeps me around because I'm fat and I make her look good. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. That's when she tells me that it's always good having me around, you know? And I did not know what she meant at the time. When the random guy shows up with her drink, and then she does the thing that she always does. She flirts with these guys, puts her hand on their shoulder, tends to laugh at their stupid nasty ass jokes in the hopes of getting a second drink. Me, on the other hand, was dancing and having fun with my coworker. That's when the random guy says, "Hey you need to tell your best friend to give me her phone number." And I responded, "I mean, she will if she thinks you're hot." That's when my best friend whispers into this guy's ear, but loud enough for me to hear, "Oh, she's just upset because I'm the one that gets hit on and not her. You know, because she's a little bit chubby." It didn't even make me angry. I already knew she thought this, but it stung. Like the fatty I am, I invited my coworker to a nice dinner. I left my bestie at the bar without a car. I also sent her a text saying, "I heard what you said about me to the guy, and if that's what you really think about me, then this is not a friendship I need to be pursuing." The next morning, I had about 20 missed calls from her, and so I blocked her. If she really wanted to, she could have come to my house. Do you think I did the right thing? Self-care sister out. I found out my boyfriend didn't use protection when he cheated on me. If you want to send me your story time, slide into my DMs. I ran through boyfriend is a slut. 2 years ago, we met through friends at a party. He was asking for my number before he even knew my name. To be perfectly blunt, I thought he was kind of ugly. Wasn't anything particularly special about him. Wasn't well-spoken or intelligent. Wasn't good-looking. He didn't have a high-paying job. The only good quality I found in him that night was that he made me laugh. Not just once, but basically the entire night. I really underestimated just how much a man making me laugh made me feel good. So I gave the poor ugly guy a chance. I gave him my number. 2 weeks later, I get a stupid dumb text from him. "Hey, do you want to go out to brunch?" And I said sure. He ends up taking me to brunch in Lavo, NYC. If you know Lavo, you know that it's basically like a club in the morning, but with brunch food. So he got a couple of drinks in me, and before I knew it, he started looking pretty. And bam, he went in for a kiss, and I let him. A month later, we were together. But I caught him texting one of his exes. I broke up with him. We got back together. I caught him talking to another girl on Instagram. We broke up. We got back together. Then he was on his best behavior for a couple of months. Go to part 2, it's already out. I found out my ran-through boyfriend didn't use protection when he cheated on me. If you want to send me your story time, slide into my DMs. Let me remind you, he was the ugly guy I gave a chance. After the 3rd time I caught him talking to a girl on Instagram, I broke things off, but then he was on his best behavior, so we got back together. This is where I severely underestimated him. You see, because I thought he was a little bit ugly, didn't have a high-paying job, wasn't particularly smart, but he could make me laugh, just didn't think he was able to get girls, especially not ones that were willing to take off their clothes in front of him. But one day I catch him scratching his thingy. Like, a lot, you know? Not normal. So I ask him, "What is wrong with you?" Then he starts to cry and breaks down. He says that he cheated on me with a girl and that he did not use protection. So right then and there, I took myself to the doctor and I got myself tested, and thank God I did not catch whatever he had. Turns out he has crabs. Google that at your own risk. Do you think he even apologized to me? Nope. In fact, he ghosted me. Called him and texted and he blocked me. I went to his apartment and he wouldn't let me in. This is what I get for giving the ugly guy a chance. He didn't even care for my own safety. He wasn't even gonna tell me about it. Now, how should I get revenge? My husband turned me into a corn star on OF without me even knowing. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Sending me on Instagram. This is when he finally confessed that he had been recording us doing the dirty. At first, I didn't get it. To be honest, he was my husband, so it was okay. Then he told me that he had been posting the videos on a platform called OF. I had never heard of it before, and then he filled me in. He showed me all of our earnings for the past 12 months. It was almost $150,000. I had never seen that much money in my life. He and I both came from poor families. And that's when he broke down and started to cry. He apologized and told me that he would delete the account, but I had an epiphany. I agreed to continue doing it. Never in my life would I have considered doing something like this, but we had been broke for so long. It was nice that he was paying for everything, that we could afford the better brands at the supermarket. But here's the thing. When I asked him to show me the videos that he had posted of me, I was humiliated and mortified. I thought he had at least covered my face, but no. You could see all of me and him in these videos. And then I made a huge mistake. I read the comments, and it turns out I have a new stalker. Girl, you better believe part 3 is up. Go watch it. Story time about how my husband turned me into a corn star on OF without me even knowing. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. When he finally showed me the account and I checked the comments, I came to realize I had a stalker. This man knew a lot of stuff about me. He found out where I studied, and he even found out the city we lived in. At this point, I was okay with my husband posting videos of me on OF without me knowing, because the money was so good. We were so broke, we needed it. That's when he promised me that he would block that guy, and that from now on he would blur my face. And I agreed. Which is crazy, I know. So he ended up blocking the stalker and going on with the account. Deal was was that I didn't have to do any posting, that I would just participate in the videos like usual. He would do all the editing, but that I would have control of all the money. A year later, I bought my mom a house and we bought ourselves an apartment. And we started selling stuff on Amazon. And I'm basically the accountant. Control all the money going in and out. And my husband does the rest. Literally nobody knows. We've both kept the secret and our families just think that we've leveled up. Do you think this is totally wrong? Or should we just keep going? Self-care sister out. Story time about how my coworker essayed me and then got me fired. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. 2 years ago, I decided to move to LA to become an actress. Like everyone else who's trying to become an actor, moving to LA, you're probably broke. I told my parents I wanted to move to LA. They said no. I turned 21 and I decided I'm just gonna do it. I got hired at a restaurant as a waitress and I worked for 9 months. And I was able to save around $20,000. I thought this was pretty good. My parents drove me and my things all the way to LA, were my co-signers for my apartment. I got a pretty decent apartment. As soon as I arrived, I started auditioning and I booked a small job. I paid around $500. While I was on set, there was another actress, and she was really nice. We got along, and she was surprised that I had only been in LA a couple of days. She told me that she could get me a job, and I said yes. When I tell you that everyone at this restaurant looked like a model, I am not lying. I was surprised I even got the job because I was not as good looking as everybody else. I was hired as a server, and a couple of months into my job, this new guy was hired. Let's call him Jake. Jake was incredibly hot, and he knew it. He thought he deserved every single girl, but I was pretty much an asshole to him because I didn't like that. Jake stole my number and started texting me. You have to go to part 2. Story time about how my coworker essayed me and got me fired. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. After I got hired at this new restaurant as a server, this new guy was hired 2 months later. He was the biggest asshole. He was good looking and he knew it. He started trying to talk to me, but I was a complete asshole to him. And that's when I realized he stole my number from the schedule because I started receiving text messages from him. First, he was just asking, what day are you working? Can you cover my shifts? And at first I would just give him really short answers and he clearly didn't like that. He started to call me. When I didn't answer, he kept texting. When I didn't text, he kept calling. Every time I'd see him at work, I would just avoid him. One day we were both scheduled for the closing shift. I was polishing silverware at one of the tables when he came and sat down next to me and started asking me 20 questions. Where I was from, I have a boyfriend, did I like guys, did I do things to myself if I was alone, if you know what I mean. That's when he grabbed my boobula without saying anything, just out of nowhere. He wouldn't let it go. I screamed so loud my manager came running. It gets worse. Part 3 is up. Story time about my coworker essayed me and got me fired. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. As this guy was grabbing my boobula, I yelled so loud my manager came running. My manager caught him grabbing my boobala. Guess what? My manager just told him to stop. And he told us that anything between us has to happen outside of work. With tears in my eyes, I said to him, I did not consent. I told him to stop. That's when my manager said, I've seen you flirting with him. You probably provoked him. I just went home and cried. Jake apologized over text. And then he asked me out on a date. He clearly did not understand that I didn't like him and that I didn't want him to touch me. I managed to survive 3 more months. Just avoided Jake and my manager. I was making at least $1,200 a week. It was too good to quit. After 3 months, my manager started giving me terrible hours. And Jake would try to corner me, try to grab my hand. And then one day I wake up to an email telling me not to come into work. My manager told me that I was fired. Weeks later, I found out Jake and my manager were besties. I found a better job. My parents think I should sue, but I think it's not worth the trouble. What do you guys think? What should I do? Story time about how my gay best friend confessed that he is not gay and he's actually straight and he's actually in love with me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I sent me on Instagram. Let's call him Ted. Ted and I met in 10th grade. Now let me be clear. I did not think he was gay. In fact, I knew that he was hooking up with other girls. He was attractive and one of the most popular guys in school. I knew for a fact that he was hooking up with the most popular girls in school. He befriended me. He told me that he was secretly gay, but I was the only person he had ever told. We became besties. He started telling me about the guys he liked, about guys he had hooked up with, and I started telling him all my dirty secrets too. We would sleep over at his house almost every other weekend. He would sleep over at my house almost every other weekend. But we were together every single day and every single weekend. His parents loved me. Dad would always say things like, I can't wait for you and Ted to get married. And I would just stay quiet thinking, oh my gosh, if you only knew, you have a gay son. For 3 years, his parents thought we were in a relationship, all because he wanted to cover the fact that he was gay. After graduating high school, we went to the same university and we decided to be roommates. In front of people, he acted like my boyfriend. He would kiss my neck and hold my hand. It gets so much worse. Go to part 2. Story time about how my gay best friend confessed that he is not gay and that he is actually in love with me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It's on Instagram. After deciding to become roommates and moving in together, he was still acting like he was my boyfriend in front of other people. Because according to him, our friends and his family would never accept that he was gay. Anytime we were in front of people, he would grab my hand, kiss my neck, and just act like a couple. Now, living together was fun. We would go to parties together and he would always take care of me. I was still changing in front of him, was still telling him all of my secrets. This man would wash my underwear. That's how comfortable I was with him. One night night I told him I had a huge crush on this guy. That's when he told me that we should practice kissing so that I could kiss with my crush. I was a little bit tipsy, so I accepted. 10 minutes into my kissing lesson, he starts putting his hand on places he shouldn't. That's when he confessed that he's never been gay. He only told me that lie in high school to get close to me, that the lie grew so much that he couldn't retract. Then he tried to kiss me again, pushed him away and told him that what he had done was abuse. I felt completely violated. Kicked him out of the apartment, of course, and I told his parents and mine. My dad went to his house and punched him in the face. I'm even getting therapy for it now. Should I report him or something? Story time about how my husband moved his mistress into our house. Come on, my story time is on Instagram. Insisted we needed this one nanny. She was 17. She came recommended by one of our employees. I said yes. When this girl came to our house, she looked completely innocent, like a regular 17-year-old girl. She had just graduated high school, seemed really responsible, and really loved the kids. And the kids liked her because she was young and she played with them. After 3 weeks, everything was settled. She was the nanny. We even decided to keep her as a live-in nanny. This made my life so much easier. I was opening my own salon, and my work days were 12+ hours. This girl was so reliable. She wouldn't just make dinner for the kids, she would make dinner for me and my husband. She wouldn't just wash their clothes, she would wash our clothes. And my husband paid her really, really well for this. But this is when I noticed my husband's mood started changing. For the better. He was always in a good mood, and he started working out like crazy. He was eating super healthy, trying to spend more time with the family. That included the nanny. That's when I had that nervous feeling in my stomach, kind that gives you the runs. That's when I knew that something was happening. Part 3 is up. Story time about how my husband moved his mistress into our house. Claim is not my story time. Send me on Instagram. My husband was happy all the time after this nanny moved in. That's when I knew something was happening. I started noticing that after I would go to bed, my husband would suddenly get really thirsty and have to go downstairs. Nanny's bedroom was downstairs. Usually I'd go back to sleep. I would wake up a couple of hours later and he was still not in bed. When I went downstairs, he was coming out of the nanny's bedroom. That's when he said that the nanny was feeling sick, that he was just helping her. This kept happening all the time. Till one night, I wake up to find them kissing on the couch, as if the kids and I are not sleeping upstairs. This is when the 17-year-old nanny starts to cry and confesses they met when she was 15 and that they had been together for 2 years. Yes, I just found out my husband was cheating, but I also found out that my husband is a pede. That's when he pipes up and says nanny had been stalking him and that she seduced him. But guess what? I believe her. I took her back to her parents' house and told them what happened. And then his parents got him arrested. I filed for divorce, but now I heard he has a new girlfriend. She just turned 18. I matched with a murderer on Tinder. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. All of this happened 2 years ago, and if you are on a dating app, please be careful. I matched with this really, really cute guy on Tinder. He said he was a doctor, and he had all of these pictures to back it up. So I completely believed him when he said he was an oncologist. I was 22 at the time, and I realized that we did have a big age gap. You see, he was 36. Talked on Tinder for a couple of days, and then we moved over to text message. And he was so charming. He was reciting poetry to me. We even discussed the movie Pride and Prejudice. Looking back now, he asked me all of my favorite things. And from there, he started talking to me about my favorite movies, my favorite actors, favorite foods. I mean, he even sent me recipes. He was perfectly charming in every single way. Finally asked me out on a date, and we went to a beautiful, expensive dinner. The restaurant was right by a river. Then he surprised me with a boat ride on the river. Date was magical, almost too good to be true. Then things just got really strange. He was texting me nonstop for 2 days, asking me how I was, literally asking me what I ate for dinner, all over me. That's when he shows up unannounced to my apartment, and he's carrying a huge duffel bag. I mean huge and super heavy. And he tells me that his apartment flooded and that he didn't have anybody else to stay with, essentially asking me if he could stay at my place. I really didn't know if I should, but I thought, what's the worst that could happen? We already went on a date. I told him he could sleep on my couch, but that nothing would happen between us. He agreed and promised that he wouldn't try to make any moves on me. He comes in, puts his bag down, and just starts making dinner in my kitchen. He made soup and a beautiful salad. When I tried the soup, it tasted horrible. The first thing that ran through my mind was, oh my gosh, did he put something in this? But I couldn't believe that that would even be a possibility. We watched a movie and then I went to bed. I wake up to banging on my door at 2 a.m. Do you know how scary that is? He yells, I left my phone in there, I need to get it out. Then I realized, hold on a second, you didn't even come into my bedroom. First I pretended to be asleep just to not have to open, but then he kept banging louder. And then his voice got angry. He said, I know you're awake, just let me in. I finally said, sorry, I'm not gonna let you in, you're acting strange. Then he laughed and said, oh my gosh, stop being so dramatic, just let me in. But I did not. I didn't tell him, but I called the cops. Luckily, I lived 2 minutes away from the police station. He did not know this. I went into my bathroom and told the cops to come right away. For the next 2 minutes, he went silent. I pressed my ear to the door. I could hear him unzipping something, putting stuff down, and suddenly he starts banging on the door again. That's when the cops knock on my door and he goes to open. 10 seconds later, the cops knock on my door and tell me it's safe to come out. But the cop says, be prepared for what you're about to see. I open my door and there on my living room floor, there's a plastic tarp, knives, handcuffs, whips. Apparently this guy had been terrorizing women all around town. But fortunately, he had not unalived anybody. He would SA them and then tie them up and do things. But none of these women had reported him except for me. He went to prison and called me apologizing. Be careful out there. Story time about how my husband stole my dog because I told his family that he's gay. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. My husband and I had been married for 6 months before I realized he was gay. The way I found out is horrendous. Husband, almost ex, he has a gardening business. This means he works with a lot of guys. The guys that he started hiring were all very young, very attractive. Obviously, I didn't care because I never thought that he would be gay. Well, I come home one day early from work, only to find him and 3 other guys on the couch, doing different things to each other. I was horrified. I was seriously triggered and traumatized. You see, I had been essayed by 2 boys when I was in college, so walking into this literally made me vomit. Even got flashbacks. What did my husband do? The man kicked me out of the house, closed the door on me. So I proceed to start ringing the doorbell. So I decide to call 911 and say that there's 2 intruders in my house, which I mean there are. By the time the police come, they're all dressed up. Of course, it was my word against theirs. The police told me that all I could do was get a divorce. At the time, I had a 2-month-old puppy. My husband didn't really like the puppy. He was a lot of work, but it was my responsibility. After I caught him, I ran straight to his mom's house and spilled the beans. His mom and dad were furious. They called him, but he wouldn't answer his phone. Called my sister and she told me that I should just go live with her. I go home to grab my things and my puppy, but my puppy is nowhere to be found. That's when my husband told me that he probably ran away. This man refused to help me look for him. I'm filing a divorce, but it's been a month since I saw my puppy, and I know the puppy's somewhere in the house. My husband doesn't let me back into the house though, and the cops were absolutely no use. I'm planning on breaking in. I mean, what should I do? Give me advice.